What's going on, guys? Bearded Hikes here. Not in the middle of the forest like I usually am, but doing something kind of different today. We're walking down a street in the middle of Mount Dora here in Lake County, and at the end of the street, I should say in the middle of the street, there's a railroad bridge that crosses, but these trestles are really old. This used to be in service, but it's not in service anymore, and it was used by the Transatlantic Coastline Railway. A lot of, people would come in and out of Mount Dora. We'd have tourists that came in and out. Mount Dora used to actually ship out oranges to communities around the area, and the oranges would have little ribbons on them that say visit Mount Dora. So, and on the back of it was the address to the Lakeside Inn. So everybody would come from wherever they are in their respective counties, a lot of them from up north, and they would have all crossed over this railroad trestle here. Today, it's in poor shape, but I'm gonna show it to you guys. It was struck once by a fire truck. The ladder of a fire truck hit it, and it sustained some damage. It's been repaired over the time, but you can just see some of this early construction here of these retaining walls, and there's an angle to them, so you can see that Mother Nature is pushing on them. And I think eventually the day will come that the city will likely not be able to care for these, and they're gonna have to wind up taking them down. But I'm gonna show you guys what's here while they're here, and we're gonna check it out. Walking along the side of the grade, it goes about 20 feet up, and you can see lots of the railroad rocks are still there, mostly crushed granite and limestone. Have some railroad ties over here off to the side, and have pieces of metal hanging off of them, and this like goes all the way down, kind of the same story. Gonna try to get up here where this levels out with the road, and I'm just gonna take a walk since this is an abandoned railroad track. We don't really have to worry about getting hit by a train. Found a little path here. Oh, it's like walking on beach sand. So this is the track. You can see there's some significant damage to the railroad ties. One sign that it's no longer being used. And we have a retired track here where it looks like they've removed most of the ties. And the track goes to a split down here. I'm gonna take you guys there, and we'll be standing at the top of the trestle. So here we go. I tell everybody whenever you're walking railroad tracks, always be really cautious. Try, if you're gonna walk on the railroad tracks, to stay on the ties. Watch for nails and sharp pieces of metal sticking up, because these things are pretty thrown together and are not checked over time. You can see a switching mechanism here. Track would be able to direct which way the train's gonna go. These wheels here would turn a motor, and these lines would either close, turn left or right, and that would make, either the left side of the track closed or the right side of the track open, kind of whatever way they decided to do it. Also, in a lot of Hollywood movies, people die, they get their foot stuck right there.
Yeah. What? Hey! I got foot stuck!
Here we have a little bit of a piece of history. This is the switcher. It's still here today. Still says switch stand on it. There's a year, 1978. And you can see somebody's done some security measures here to make sure that nobody could pull the thing. It is still very cool. Still here today. Not allowed to trespass onto the trestle, so we're going to stop before we hit it. This is the top of it, and you can see we're about, like I said, about 25 feet up. No trespassing, so we're going to make sure we stop within a reasonable distance of the sign. It sure is cool to see this still here today. You got to think some of these wood pieces are over 100 years old. This would have been your main way in and out of this area back in the early 1900s. This would have been it. So you can almost think about how many people came over those years past this very spot, came over this street, maybe while horse and buggies were going under them. Let's go down there. I'm going to show you guys a little bit more of the trestle from the bottom. Walking under the trestle, you can just kind of get a feel for how old this wood is. You can see how this was actually just a huge tree and they just milled it down to be the support beams for this. I just thought this was really cool little piece of history here that our city has done a really good job of not disturbing and just leaving it around so that people like us and other explorers can come along and have the same experience of old Florida. Even have some of the old curb still on the street here before the sidewalk. You can see where they cut it out. So very interesting spot. So today in the Mount Dora area is actually a farmer's market. But here on the backside you can see just through these tents there's like an old white wooden building. Used to be the old train depot. I'm gonna take you guys back there. We're gonna kind of take a look around. So back in the day this would have been like a bustling area. Tourists coming in and out. Today it's actually the home of the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, they do events. You can rent the space. These tracks aren't used, so really you can walk right down the tracks. There will never be a train that hits you. This building has been restored. It was restored in the 90s by a group of people, their own time and money. Here's a little nugget. This is just a recreation sign. This was owned by the Atlantic Coastline Railroad. And here's a bench dedicated to the volunteers who restored it. Still have some of the original glass in the windows here. As you can hear, it's a pretty popular area. On the top of the building here, it's an original signal arm with the original lights and mechanisms. Back in the day, this would have signaled to the trains coming in and out of the station which tracks were open and closed for the day, which tracks were being used by what train. You could see on the top there's like a red, orange, and green light. And that would just be flipped on depending on what track they were using. I'm gonna back up and show you guys the same angle that an old picture was taken a long time ago, and we're gonna match it up so you could see exactly how much this area has changed over time. So back in the early 1900s, somebody took a picture right here in this area. I'm gonna match it up for you now.